Welcome to United Way's fiscal year 25-26 RFA workshop for financial prosperity. My name is Suzette Fleischman. I'm the Vice President of Contracts and Quality Assurance here at United Way. And as such, I and the team will be providing you with the opportunity to ask questions. And what I'd like to do at this time is have our team introduce themselves very quickly. They'll give you their name and their title. So I'm going to ask, starting with Dr. McGuire.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Rebecca McGuire, and I am the Vice President of Housing here at United Way.
Thank you. Alexis.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alexis Basgill, and I'm the Director of Financial Prosperity and Emergency Management here at United Way.
Thank you. Tanya.
Good afternoon, everybody. Tanya Francis, United Way of Broward County, Senior Compliance Officer.
Thank you. Natasha. Okay. I'm going to ask Maria Hernandez to introduce herself.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Maria Hernandez, and I'm the Chief Program Officer here at United Way. Welcome.
Thank you, Maria. All right, then. I'm gonna kick off our meeting and turn it over to our Alexis Basgill, who's the Director of Financial Prosperity and Emergency Management. Alexis, it's all yours.
Thank you, Suzette. Thank you all for attending our meeting today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to all of the information we have for this year's RFA. So I'm going to share my screen. Second.
And
at the top.
And I try to be aware of
it,
but it's
so,
it's like literally like 20.
Sorry.
I did want to say is that we're going to provide you with an overview and then of the RFA and the RBA and outcomes. There's going to be an opportunity for questions to be asked. If you didn't already see the questions and answers on our website, the commonly asked questions that we have the FAQ posted on our website, please do so. But nevertheless, this is an opportunity for you to ask your questions, and you have until January the 17th to ask questions, and then we will post the questions and answers on our website on the 21st. So again, this is a great opportunity to ask any questions that you may have at this time. And I'm going to turn it back to Alexis. Thank you. And please mute yourself if you're not talking.
Thank you, Suzette. Just to reiterate what Suzette had mentioned, please, as we go through the presentation, there's a lot of information to go through. So we'll definitely ask for you to enter any questions that you have in the chat. We'll keep track of them. If there's questions that we might be able to answer during the presentation, Natasha will be assisting us to answer some of those questions. But again, at the end, we'll have some time to go through the questions that were entered into the chat and answer any of the questions that we're able to. So briefly, just to go over the RFA. So the Financial Prosperity RFA opened on January 6th and it closes February 13th of 2025. United Way is seeking established, evidence-based, successful financial prosperity programs, which are results-oriented and have a clear set of measurable goals, tasks, and objectives to ensure successful outcomes for the target population serves. Funds will be awarded for fiscal year 25-26, beginning July 1st, 2025, and ending June 30th of 2026, with the possibility of renewal for 2 years. Just give you a little bit of a background. UWBC utilizes a collective impact model, which investigates opportunities for broad partnerships to leverage resources, access, and develop relationships within the community while taking a holistic approach to service delivery. This RFA is designed to help individuals and families to earn, keep, and grow their assets through workforce development, financial coaching, and services, as well as addressing emergency basic needs. Let's see that right below. ALICE, the 2023 data shows that the number of ALICE workers continues to remain high, unfortunately, at 33% in Broward County, with 13% living below the federal poverty level. And then programming must focus on one or more strategies to increase income/wages, build savings, and grow assets, as well as to help the ALICE population to meet basic household expenses. The proposed programming in your application should be available year-round. And then applications must demonstrate knowledge of current workforce, vocational and financial supports, and personal finance fundamentals with target populations for whom services would be provided, coordination among appropriate community stakeholders, and a clear description of how our funds and resources will be leveraged to ensure that expected gains in performance outcomes are met or exceeded. So, to inform this RFA that we have created, UWC conducted a community scan that included a review of existing needs assessments, research reports, and data, assessment of funders other than United Way that had invested in similar programs related to earning, keeping, and growing assets, as well as meeting emergency basic needs. And the previous performance outcomes for existing programs that United Way has been funding. So based on the community scan, as well as the challenges and needs identified, UWC seeks to invest in programs that achieve the following goals. Individuals and families increase income/wages. Individuals and families build savings and grow assets. And then ALICE households meet basic household expenses. Okay, so now to delve a little deeper into the strategies. The first strategy, strategy 1, is workforce development. So the focus on this strategy is to connect individuals who are unemployed or underemployed to the workforce via job skills training, employment placement retention services, as well as vocational training that can result in certifications and credentials that increase opportunities to grow wages. And then also below, we've outlined some of the best practices around some workforce development programming, as well as some information on the literature that led us to have this strategy as one of our 3 strategies. Also, I'd like to highlight the performance indicators for this strategy. So the performance indicators are as follows: percent of individuals served who earn job relevant licenses, certificates, and or credentials, percent of individuals served who increase income, percent of individuals who increase their level of self-sufficiency in employment, and percent of participants who report an increase in financial well-being. And we've also highlighted below some of the performance measurement tools that will be utilized for us to be able to measure the performance indicators included above. And also, as Suzette mentioned, later in the agenda, she'll also be going over some additional performance measurement information. So additionally, strategy 2 is financial coaching and services. So for this specific strategy, it's focused around providing access to mainstream financial services to help families lower costs, adhere to a budget, implement sound financial practices, increase savings, improve credit, build assets, and achieve personal financial goals. And then similar to strategy 1, we are also providing this RFA a literature review that included some information and data that led us to identify strategy 2 as one of those that we would select for this RFA. As well as below, there's also some best practices around programs that are centered around financial coaching. Okay, and then the performance indicators for this strategy are percent of individuals served who increase income, percent of individuals who increase their financial literacy, percent of individuals who increase their disposable income by accessing benefits and or reducing their costs. And specifically for this strategy, there's an optional performance indicator of the total dollar amount of refunds returned to individuals and families through VITA and My Free Taxes. So that's through our free tax preparation services through our VITA initiative in Broward County. So for the performance measurement tools that will be included to measure the performance indicators mentioned above will be the Arizona Self-Sufficiency, CFPB, Financial Wellbeing Scale, Proof of Income/Employment Compensation, Participant Budget, and Participant Satisfaction Survey. All, as I mentioned, will be discussed a little further in detail by Suzette later. Okay, and as we move into strategy 3, so strategy 3 is emergency basic needs services. So the purpose of emergency basic needs services is to provide individuals and families who have experienced an unbudgeted and unexpected expense to provide them with emergency financial assistance to avoid serious financial crisis. And as similar in strategy 1 and 2, we've also included a literature review that included some relevant data that led us to have this as one of our 3 strategies, as well as some best practices around performing basic needs assistance programming. Also, I want to highlight the performance indicators for strategy 3, which are percent of participants who report an increase in financial well-being and percent of participants who have increased their level of self-sufficiency, and the performance measurement tools are listed below the performance indicator. Okay, and then as I mentioned previously, I'm going to skip over this section for the time being regarding results-based accountability and outcome performance, which Suzette will talk about later in the agenda. So I'm just going to scroll down a little bit if you all just bear with me for one moment. Okay, so now as we move towards the organization application requirements. So some of the organization application requirements that I'll delve into a little deeper as I move into the application itself and I review the requirements for the application, but some of the applications, the requirements are included below, such as providing a concise description of the applicant agency, its history, years of operation, general mission statement, primary services provided, if that applicant agency supports United Way of Broward County, and as you'll see in the application, I'll go into a little further detail about that. Has the applicant agency been a defendant in any litigation or regulatory action in the last 3 years? If yes, provide a brief explanation of each instance. And then if the applicant agency is accredited, please include the name of the accrediting body, the level of accreditation, and time period if applicable. And then some of the program application requirements, as you'll see, there's the program summary, which is up to 10 points, and then some of the information below, which I'll detail a little further when I review the application as a whole. The statement of need, which is up to 30 points, and some relevant information that you'll want to make sure to include in your application. Evidence-based model and program plan, up to 30 points. Evaluation plan, up to 15 points. Organizational capacity, up to 25 points. collaboration coordination up to 10 points, and then some of the program attachments. As I mentioned, I'll go a little further into detail when I review the application with you all. And then panel presentations will also occur. Applicants will have the opportunity to meet with the volunteer review committee to present and answer any questions in reference to their applications for funding. And then that will be up to 12 points. And then also, please make sure to take some time to review the general application information that's included in the RFA as well. I'll spare you some of the fine details, but please make sure before submitting your application that you review those elements of the application. As well as below on this page, the application timetable is included. So as you all know, the application was opened on January 6th. The application workshop, which is happening right now, is happening today. And then January 17th is the deadline for applicant agencies to submit written questions via email to myself or Natasha. January 21st is when we will upload all the questions from before, as well as any questions that have been asked throughout this time. We'll upload an updated frequently asked questions to our website that will have all questions that had been asked. February 13th will be the deadline for submission of online applications. There'll be no exceptions, no paper applications, or no applications emailed to us will be accepted. And then applications are due at 12 p.m. Eastern time. No applications will be accepted after that time. February 18th is going to be the cure deadline. And then March / April will be when the panel presentations will occur once we know how many applications we have and have started scheduling with the volunteers that we have. We'll make all those eligible agencies aware of when their date for their panel presentation will be. No, and those panel presentations will be held in person at United Way. May 21st through the 22nd will be the notification of the funding awards that will be going out to all the agencies that are funded through this RFA process. And then July 1st of 2025, the fiscal year 25-26 funding cycle will begin. Now, as I mentioned, regarding inquiries about the application, verbal inquiries regarding the application will only be permitted during the application workshop. And then any written inquiries can be submitted via email either before or after the application workshop to myself or Natasha until January 17th at 5 p.m. And then, as I mentioned, the responses to all of those questions will be posted on our website February 21st. January 21st at 5 p.m. Typo earlier. So yeah, all the questions will be uploaded January 21st at 5 p.m. Also, this section just goes over a lot of the application criteria regarding the RFA. So applicant agencies must submit an application that addresses the scope that's stated in the RFA. If the application does not address the identified issues that have been outlined in this RFA, then it may be rejected as non-responsive by UWBC staff. Applicant agencies must be a nonprofit organization that have been determined by the IRS to be categorized as such. Applicant agencies must submit a complete application online, including all attachments that are applicable to the agency status. And I will go further into details I mentioned above when I review the application with you all. Also, all staff working in programs that provide services to children, seniors, or other vulnerable populations, which with background screening licensing is required. The program must comply with the level 2 background screenings and fingerprint requirements. An attestation or affidavit of good moral character must be completed annually for each employee, volunteer, and subcontractor personnel who work in direct contact with children. Program providers will be required to rescreen each employee, volunteer, and our subcontractor every 5 years. And then school-based programs must follow all screening requirements as required by the school board of Broward County. Also, the application must comply with the fatal and critical flaw checklist. Okay, and then section G under UWBC Community Impact Partner requirement. These are all the requirements for any agency that's a partner of United Way of Broward County. Agencies must identify itself as United Way of Broward County Community Impact Funded Partner through the display of United Way of Broward County's trademark logo on its local physical facilities and on all printed and electronic communication disseminated locally pertaining to the funded program. Agency must mention UWBC in the closing boilerplate fact statements and press releases pertaining to the funded program and provide a link to UWB's website on its website. Agency must participate in annual monitoring, allowing UWBC staff to access all project records. Agency must submit required reports, including invoices, program activities, and outcomes. Agency must track client demographics, city of residency, military status of clients, /caregivers, and income level. Agency must enter all client and service related data into the data system SAMUS that we have here at United Way of Broward County. Agency must carry general liability limits of no less than $1 million per any one occurrence and $3 million aggregate. Agency must carry workers' compensation insurance, including employers' liability limits of no less than $500,000 each accident, $500,000 disease each employee, $500,000 disease policy limit. Agency must carry sexual abuse and molestation coverage limits of no less than $1 million per occurrence. Agency must carry professional liability coverage limits of no less than $1 million per claim. Agency must vary auto liability of no less than $1 million combined single limit. And then application submission. So to submit the application, you'll be required to submit it electronically via the job form system that is included on the website. And then, as I mentioned earlier, hard copies of the application will not be accepted in the procurement process. Applications that are emailed will also not be accepted. And then also, as discussed, applications must be submitted online by noon Eastern time on February 13th, and then no extensions will be granted. Okay, and then I just wanted to take a second just to note, because I think it's very important with online applications, that UWBC will not be held responsible for applicant agency's failure to meet time deadlines due to any reason, including power outages, technology failures, system glitches, etc. Okay, and then now regarding the review process, applications submitted to United Way will undergo a 4-step process, which includes a critical flaw review, a financial review, and then a volunteer review panel presentation. And then finally, it will be approved by UWBC's Board of Directors. And then failure to submit the application by the stated deadline, February 13th at noon Eastern time, is the only flaw that's not curable. Applications will not be accepted after the deadline. Just to reiterate that one more time. Agencies that submit applications that are missing or incorrect items for 2 through 13 of the critical flaw checklist will be notified by 5 p.m. on February 14th. Agencies will have until February 18th at 5 p.m. to cure the item by emailing it to myself or Natasha. If the item is not cured within the specific time period, the agency will be notified that the application will be removed from further review. And then determination as to whether the item has been cured is at the sole discretion of United Way of Broward County. Okay, and then all applications that have moved through the fatal flaw process will undergo a fiscal review. Failure to pass a fiscal review will result in the disqualification of the agency's application. If any collaborative group is applying for the grant, the lead agency must pass the fiscal review. And then, as I mentioned previously, all the applications that pass the fiscal review process will then be reviewed by a team of volunteers. And then the reviewers will then have an opportunity during agencies panel presentations to ask any additional questions that they may have regarding the program. Reviewers will utilize the agency applications, information learned through panel presentations, and their own expertise to make a funding recommendation. It's important to note that the highest ranking score does not automatically guarantee a funding recommendation, and that we reserve the right to reject all applications or to accept, modify, or reject portions of an application. And then, as I mentioned earlier, that once all the programs have been recommended for funding by the volunteer reviewers, they'll be forwarded to the United Way's Board of Directors for approval, and that we retain the right to rescind an award in the event that the parties cannot come to terms with respect to the agreement. And thereafter, award to another applicant agency recommended for approval under the same application process without having to request new applications for those services. No appeals for this RFA will be considered. And then during the review process, applicant agencies are instructed to maintain a cone of silence to ensure the process remains objective. This includes refraining from lobbying or discussing programs with UWBC's board, staff, or volunteers involved in any way in United Way's allocation process. Breaking this cone of silence may be considered cause of disqualification of any application for funding. So that is the end of the 25-26 RFA information for financial prosperity. And I have been talking for 30 minutes, so I'm going to take a drink of water before I move on to the application. Okay. So now moving on to the application itself. So can everybody now see my screen that shows the application link itself? Okay, perfect. So this link can be found from the RFA application on our website. You can click the link to then be able to gain access to the drop form to be able to submit your application. So for the initial part of the application, the applicant agency information, there's going to be some basic information that you're going to need to be able to provide, including your agency name, address and phone number, website, office phone number, email address, and agency fiscal year. And then section B is the certification that the information that you've included in this application is accurate to the best of your knowledge. So those that will be signing this piece of the application would be those that have signing authority for the organization. And then you'll see here the name, title, date, and signature. And as we move on to section C, Section C asks for you to provide a description of your agency's background, including its history, years of operation, mission, and primary services provided. And then question 2 asks about how the agency supports United Way of Broward County. We've included various checkboxes below, so you can include what ways that your agency has supported United Way. Also, there's a question regarding whether the applicant agency has been a defendant in any litigation or regulatory action in the last 3 years. If yes, please provide in a text box a brief explanation of each instance. And then question 4 discusses whether the applicant agency has received any accreditations. So if they have, to please include the name of the accrediting body, the level of accreditation, and the time period. And then here, so we move on to organizational attachments that are provided below. And I am going to go a little further into detail as I talk about each attachment. I think it's very important to note that if there's an attachment here up above that you see, then it's important that you make sure to be able to complete that template and sign it. Now, you may be also, as I'll show you, there may be an additional document that we may request that you attach in addition to that template, but it's important to make sure that for each one of those attachments that you see, B, D, F, G, H, and K, that you have that template attached to the respective attachment section. Okay, now to go a little further into detail. So attachment A is not included in that list above, but attachment A is specifically regarding your audited financial statements, which are required to be submitted for the most recently completed fiscal year or the previous fiscal year if the most recent one ended within 180 days of the due date of this application. Attachment B is the applicant agency verification form that must be signed by the signing authority for the agency. So as you see, like I mentioned up above, attachment B is included. So please use that template when completing that form. And then attachment C is the certificate of corporation. That must be submitted by, there's 2 options that you have with it. One is specifically to utilize the www.sunbiz.org website to be able to attach a printout of the public inquiry page and should be dated within 12 months of the due date of this RFA, saying that the applicant agency is active, or the applicant agency may submit a copy of its certificate of corporation from the Secretary of State of Florida, certified and dated by the Secretary of State within 12 months of the due date of this RFA. This certificate must state on its face that the applicant agency is active. Also, it's important to note that that a copy of the Articles of Incorporation, acknowledgement of annual reports, or any similar document does not meet the requirements of this section. Okay, now attachment D. This attachment that is included up above here as a drug-free workplace certification template. Please download that certification template, review it, and then sign it. And that template just certifies that the applicant agency will provide a drug-free workplace. And then a notarized original signature is required for that attachment. Also, attachment E, please attach the IRS determination of 501c3 nonprofit status below. Now, and then attachment F, the client non-discrimination policy. As I mentioned above, this is one of the sections where if you have a non-discrimination policy, you may attach it to the application, but also as you see up above with attachment F, there's also a template that you have to sign. So theoretically, for attachment F, if you already have your own organization client non-discrimination policy, then you would attach your organization's client non-discrimination policy, as well as you would attach the client non-discrimination policy template included above. Okay. And then attachment G, the current equal employment opportunity policy, the same as below, same as attachment F. You may have your own agency employment opportunity policy, equal employment opportunity policy that you may want to include, but also as well, you want to attach the attachment template in attachment G that's included up above. So that would be 2 attachments. And then attachment H, again, with current Americans with Disability Act policy, a sample policy is provided above, include your agency's current policy, as well as the organizational attachment H that's included above. And then for attachment 1 here, you want to include a direct line organizational chart showing where this program will function within the agency if the requested funds are awarded. And then attachment J, non-for-profit organizations must also include a list of the agency's board of directors that includes their affiliation, phone numbers, email addresses, and offices held within the board. And attachment K is the 211 organization profile. So the organization profile can be obtained by agencies by visiting the 211 website at www.211broward.org. Okay, now moving on to program information. So under program information, you'll be including your program's name, the funding category that you're requesting funding for, the funding request dollar amount, what and whether the program is currently funded by United Way of Broward County. And then in the application program contact information, this is where you will include the contact name, title, phone number, and email address for the person that will be responsible for overseeing the program that you're requesting funding for. And then section C is regarding the program location or location. So this is where you would include the locations where the services of this program will be rendered, whether that be one location or multiple locations. You're able to check this box below to be able to enter additional location if necessary. And then in program summary, we will ask that you provide a summarization of the proposed program, including the key components, the target population, the numbers to be served, the geographic area, and the proposed outcomes. And then for statement of need, you'd be provide a narrative detailing the geographic area proposed, the target population to be served, and the service locations, as well as providing an overview of why there's a need for those services that are in your proposal and how the services in your proposal will address that need. The statement should also include the city, school, and or neighborhood statistics regarding the identified issue. Now for F, which is the evidence-based model and program plan, we're asking that you provide a detailed description of the proposed model with supporting evidence, that you describe the client eligibility and how the population will be recruited and retained, describe the proposed service schedule, as well as providing a detailed staffing plan that includes positions, education requirements, experience level, duties and responsibilities, and the percentage of time devoted to your proposed program model. The evaluation plan, we want you to provide an overview of your proposed outcomes using the RBA framework that Suzette's going to review in a few minutes, and your target goals for each. Please describe the measurement tools you intend to employ, the proposed data collection methodology, and the data collection points. Under organizational capacity, we'd like for you to describe the agency's experience with the target population, the overview of the key staff's experience with working with this proposed target population and the proposed service, address how and why the agency is uniquely qualified to provide services in the geographic area proposed, and then a detailed overview of the agency's cultural and linguistic competencies, and whether the program or agency has been monitored by UWBC or other funders within the last 12 months and the results from those reports. And then under collaboration and coordination, we would like you to describe the agency's existing programmatic and or other relevant collaboration, partnerships, or coordination of services, and then explaining the agency's capacity to leverage other services, funding, and or resources for this program. And then there's under program attachments, there's 3 program attachment templates, one for attachment A, B, and C. For attachment A, specifically around staff information, we're going to ask you to list all positions and the number of each that will be providing direct and support services, including the job title, minimum education, training, and experience requirements, primary duties, and the percent of each position's time that would be devoted to the program. And then for attachment B, we're going to be asking that you complete and attach the budget form that's included above, and that you provide a detail of the annual expenses related to the program on the budget detail document and a summary on the budget summary document. Please note that the budget detail will transfer to the budget summary automatically. And for attachment C, we have included a performance measures matrix that you'll complete, that's included above, that you'll complete and attach here. And then attachment D, please, if you're currently being funded by United Way, please submit any monitoring reports and our program evaluation reports for the proposed programs that are currently funded by United Way, or if you're not funded by United Way currently, but have received program evaluation reports by other funders, please include those in the attachment below. And then you'll see once you have completed all the required fields and completed your application, you'll be able to review before submit, and then be able to submit the application. Okay, so that concludes the portion of the application for the Financial Prosperity RFA. I'm going to stop sharing, and then I am going to turn it over to Suzette to be able to discuss the RBA framework as well as the performance measurement metrics. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Alexis, for that overview, comprehensive overview. And I appreciate everyone asking questions in the chat. If you do have questions, please continue to ask your questions. We are researching responses to your questions, and any questions that we are unable to respond to, we certainly will in our in the FAQ that we post. So I also want to give an opportunity. Unfortunately, Natasha had some audio issues when I was asking her to introduce herself. So Natasha, this is an opportunity for you to introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Natasha McForger. I am the Program Officer for Financial Prosperity. Thank you.
Natasha. All righty then. I am going to share my screen with all of you at this time, and I am going to go over results-based accountability. So results-based accountability, there are two necessary components of results-based accountability accountability, sorry. The first is population accountability. This is about the well-being of a geographic area. The second is performance accountability, which refers to the actual performance of a given program or service and how the target client population is better off. So this is all about how the individual or the population is better off. Results-based accountability points out that the most important measure is not how much a program does, but whether people served through programs are any better off because of the service provided. So it's really important to look at that. If there's a change in how someone is in their lives, what is that change? And are they better off prior to the service delivery? Results-based accountability points. Better off. Results-based accountability points out that the most important measure is not how much a program does, but whether people served through programs are any better off because of the service provided. For example, have the people served by a particular program gained increased skills, capacities, knowledge as a result of their participation? The ultimate desired result is to see a positive change for those we serve. Performance accountability helps communities, programs, and funding stakeholders see the linkage between any agency's work, its performance, and the results achieved for the people served by the agency's programs to have a positive impact on community well-being. There are 7 questions related to performance accountability for consideration. The first one is, what is our target population, general or specific? The second one is, how do we measure whether our chosen population is better off, improved quality of life? The third one is, how do we measure if we are providing our services well and as expected? The fourth one, how are we doing on the most important identified measures and why? The fifth one is, who are the partners available to help us? The sixth one, how can we do better? And the seventh one, what are we proposing to do to bring about the desired change? Now, and I'm sorry, I didn't scroll down, but as we proceed through this, I do encourage you to review the definitions that are listed here on page 11 of this RFA document. This is the chart that pretty much describes what I'm talking about in terms of results-based accountability. It's asking, how much did we do? How well did we do it? And is anybody better off? So it looks at the efforts and the effect. Okay, so to align with RBA, UWBC requires an evaluation plan, which must include a brief overview of the community condition you are addressing and a brief review of the most current literature supporting your proposed program model. And Alexis mentioned that earlier. There's sections where you will be putting in that evaluation, and I'll reiterate that in a moment. The second portion of the evaluation plan could address the 3 primary questions and how activities and expected outcomes relate to each other. So again, those 3 questions are, and you see them up here, how much did we do? How well did we do it? And is anybody better off? The plan should be specific with referenced data sources, timeframes, and responsible individuals. Additionally, the following steps are helpful. Right here. The following steps are helpful steps as you work in developing your outcomes and types of measurement. So one is identify your desired outcome. First, look to your program's mission and goals. Ask yourself, what activities are we doing? Why are we doing these particular activities? And the answer to the why is usually an outcome. Next question, choose your desired outcome and prioritize them. Specify a target goal on which a base on which to base your outcomes. It is a standard recommendation that you limit your program to 3 to 5 outcomes. The next one is identify what information you need to measure the outcomes when you need to collect the data. Decide how that information can be efficiently and realistically gathered. For example, think about what documentation, grant applications, monthly reports, or personnel can help you support those outcomes. So as part of your application, you must address how you intend to measure program performance and identify your data points. When are you going to collect the data? Okay, that's important as well. If you choose to use measurement instruments, scales and surveys, for example, directly with the targeted population, we recommend that you use 3 data points, beginning of the program, midpoint, and end of the program. You must include your proposed measurement tools as part of your application and explain how they will be supportive and and a reflection of your program successes. If funded, you must also supply all information and documentation related to these tools to the United Way of Broward County for review and approval. So I'm going to also mention that you will see in section 7, that Roman numeral 7, that proposed outcomes are part of your program summary. And in number 4, it is the evaluation plan, which is up to 15 points and limited to 1,000 words or characters. Characters. 1,000 characters. Thank you. Attachment C is your performance measure matrix. Back to you, Alexis.
Okay, thank you so much, Suzette. So now we're going to the question and answers section of the chat. I know that a lot of you have been asking questions in the chat, which is great, and I know some of them have been answered. I've been looking through them to try to see which ones still may not have been answered. But before I go through the chat, is there anybody else that might have had a question that has not included it in the chat as of yet? Okay, so I'm going to go through the chat, I think. So one question I see from Christina, are all our applicants required to provide programming to address all strategies, or can programs contain 1 or 2 strategies? So when you saw on the RFA, when I was detailing the 3 different strategies, you'll also see that in the application, they match with the 3 funding categories, as we kind of discussed within the frequently asked questions, that you want to select the funding category that you feel most aligns with the program that you're requesting funding for. So I hope that if your program maybe matches with 1 or 2 of those strategies, then you want to select the one that you feel that your program best aligns with. I hope that answers your question.
I just have one correction. I did put it in the chat, and that is that number 4 evaluation plan is 1,000 words, up to 15 points. Words, not characters.
To said, because you guys are in the same room, we can hear an echo when you were speaking. If you can repeat what you just said, because it was hard to hear.
Sure, I'm so sorry.
So somebody, one of you need to mute.
Mute. Can you hear me now?
Now it's better, yes.
Okay, thank you. So what I was saying is that I had a correction. I said characters for number 4 evaluation plan. It's 1,000 words, not characters, words. So you can write your evaluation plan under number 4 using 1,000 words.
And then Brittany, I see your questions around background screenings. For background screening, if the program is going to be ran by an attorney, this background screening and fingerprint is needed to be provided, or can an alternative document showing the attorney is in good standing acceptable? So we'll definitely get back to you with the answer to that question. And as I mentioned, any of the questions that haven't been answered by today will be added to the frequently asked questions and then uploaded to the website on January 21st. And I also see, I don't believe this question was answered either, about if we have partners, should we upload any letters of support or memorandum for partnerships? The answer to that question is no. However, as I mentioned in the application, there is an area to be able to discuss in some greater detail about how you coordinate and collaborate with other partners in the community. Hope that answers your question.
Alexis, we had a question from Caden Brown. What's the participant reach goal each year and the funding max amount?
I see that Sophie had raised their hand. Sophie, if you want to take yourself off mute to ask your question.
Yes, good afternoon. Though I do think Natasha just asked you a question. I didn't know if you wanted to get to that first.
I'm sorry, could you just repeat your question real quick? My volume was low on my computer. I apologize.
No, Ms. Arnold was saying that there's a question in the Q&A from Caden Brown that wasn't answered. It's what's the participant reach goal each year and the funding max amount?
So regarding the funding max amount, so there's not a minimum or maximum of funding. It's based on the availability of funds, as we notate in the frequently asked questions. And then with the participant reach goal, we will definitely make sure to go back to team, and then we will let you know, and we'll include that in the frequently asked questions that we upload onto the website.
If you allow me to add, so for the dollar amount, again, we fundraise. Sometimes we put this RFA out there without having fundraise for all the funding, but in average, in this pillar, we give about a little bit over $1 million. So we anticipate that the funding amount will go from about 85,000 to 200, around that in average. And then the number of clients, to be sure, it depends on the funding amount that you're requesting.
Should I ask my question now?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. I actually have two questions. The first, my name is Sophie Arnold. I'm from a small nonprofit called Fostering Change for Children. We are incorporated in New York, but we're registered in Florida as a nonprofit. Does that meet your criteria? I know you said something about uploading a copy of your incorporation documentation, but I just wanted to make sure before we do this. Yes. Okay, great. And then my other question is, I know this is primarily looking at families and individual adults, but we work with the foster care population. I'm curious if adolescents in foster care and young adults aging out of foster care are part of the population that would be looked at and approved for a grant like this. You're on mute.
muted. Alexis, you're muted.
Yes, so as we had discussed in RFA, there is target populations I attempt to reach, but we are definitely open to the possibilities of other target populations. So please, complete your application, then it will be reviewed by a team of volunteers that will go over your application as discussed in the process that included earlier.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I see Brittany had raised her hand as well.
Yeah, hi. Yes, I'm sorry. I know you answered this question, but it was going in and out on my computer. Did you say that it's not required anymore to get a letter of support from an agency that your partner agency? Is that what you said? Because it was going in and out, or did you say it is required to upload a letter of support?
Letter of support meaning a letter like a MOU or wait. Oh, okay. No, so that is not something that's required.
Okay, thank you.
Christine, I see that you had raised your hand as well.
Hi, yes. I had a question about the workforce development category. Is there a requirement? I see there's a lot of best practices here. Is there a requirement for an outcome to be securing a job?
So we have included the list of the performance indicators as mentioned within the strategy for the workforce development. But I'm not sure past that.
So, I mean, it says percentage of individuals served to earn job relevant licenses, certificates, and credentials, who increase their income, who increase their self-sufficiency, who increase financial well-being. So I guess we have a program for young adults with disabilities, and always a job securing that can be kind of a challenging outcome. So I was just wondering if you guys were open to, securing of an internship, so like some of the other indicators, but that is not 100%. You must have a job.
Interesting.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so just to because I was pulling up the performance indicators again. So like the performance indicators that are required, there's none that specifically say around obtaining employment. They specifically say like percent of individuals who increase their level of self-sufficiency and employment, which is around the Arizona like self-sufficiency tool that we utilize around employment. So I would encourage you to look at that tool a little more and see what is specifically required around the Arizona self-sufficiency employment, as well as what I can do on our end is also include that piece of it with our frequently asked questions to give you a more detailed response. Be uploaded on our website January 21st. But the performance indicators that are included below are the ones that are required for strategy 1.
Thank you.
Jack, I see that you had also asked a question.
Yes, thank you. We provide free legal services to establish new not-for-profits and new corporations. Is that the population that you would cover or not really?
So what I would say in terms of like, oh, this is a target population, or this is something that we would or would not consider, I would definitely take a look at the 3 strategies that we've included in the RFA and see with the program that you have if that aligns with one of the 3 strategies. And then if you feel that it does, to then apply under that category. It'd be my best recommendation.
Because we do not offer any kind of training classes or materials or anything like that.
Mm.
It seems like that's really what you're focused on, to help individuals rather than small corporations and not-for-profits.
Yeah, this is.
We're more focused on specifically community-based services for the community and those who need to be served in Broward County.
Okay, I understand. And we're out in Collier County, so that throws us out of the ballpark also?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. You have an excellent program, though. I'm interested.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much. I see Kim has also raised her hand.
Yes, thank you so much. I put a couple of questions in the chat, and one of them just wanted a little bit more clarity. My organization deals with linkage of resources to the community, similar to 211. We do not have a physical location. We do most of our work through a community assessments, and then we literally refer the clients to the agency that may meet their needs. So I know you said something about a physical location. How would we be able to apply, and also us being a smaller organization, not really receiving a lot of funding sometimes from Walmart, but our impact is great as a smaller organization. So where would we fit in at?
So the in terms of what I know that there was a specific element around you asking about the physical locations, and we had talked about in the chat that the applicant agency does not have to have a physical location. Our services will need to be provided at locations as identified in the application and must be located in Broward County. But I think what you're trying to ask is how would we then notate in the application if we don't have a physical location? Is that what you're trying to ask essentially?
Right, because basically similar to 211, we send them the community needs assessment form, and then we get an email. So we contact them and we begin if they need rental assistance, if they need utility. I mean, we've linked the community with 80,000 to 100,000 in resources, finances. But we do not have a physical location. They don't come to an office with me. I just give them the information and link them to the resources. So there's no physical location that they come to. I'm just giving information to them, and they're getting their needs met through other organizations. We just provide indirect services. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah. I understand.
Provide direct services because we're doing it anyway. We just don't have the funding, but we're linking them to the funding source.
So what I will say for sake of time is that I will look into your question a little further because I'll look back on that application and then we'll definitely post your question in the updated frequently asked questions that we'll upload to the website on the 21st.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
The next one is Kelsey.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. I have 3 questions. I'll try to be quick. The first is I noted that you require that we upload proof of our 211 profile. Does that mean that we're required to provide services through 211 or just that we need to have a presence with them?
Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say that they had to be registered. They had to be uploaded in their system as an agency that's providing services in Broward County. And that's an easy process. You just go in their website, there's a form that you complete, and that's about it.
Okay. My next question is on your third strategy regarding emergency basic needs. You list that services may be provided for emergency needs for rent, mortgage, food, utilities, and or transportation. Will you consider support for any other material needs, such as diapers for families that are below that ALICE level, or beds for, again, families that are below the ALICE level and are currently sleeping on floors, couches, sharing space in otherwise unsanitary, unhealthy ways? Would you consider requests for those types of needs?
So in regards to some of the expenses that are regarding like the emergency basic needs, one thing that I would tell you is to include whatever types of expenses that you'd plan as part of your program that you would look to be able to provide to the community. And then as well as I know with some of the expenses or some of the items that are assistance that is given to families that it just requires like prior approval from us. So some of the items that are included with in the RFA is what we're typically will typically what we provide assistance for. However, there may be opportunities to be able to include some additional like expenses that families might expect if they fall under the category of emergency basic needs.
Thank you, Alexis. And my last question, and I'll mute myself, is around the performance indicators. It looks like, again, in that section 3 for emergency needs, you're providing a range of measurement tools that we could refer to in order to determine whether, for example, a family has increased its self-sufficiency. Am I right in interpreting that we could look to that Arizona self-sufficiency tool that you mentioned, and that maybe you'll be providing a link to the CFPB financial well-being scale, any of these tools or scales in the updated frequently asked questions? And if they don't quite characterize, for example, the impact that it makes for an ALICE threshold family to receive diapers for the first 2 years of their baby's life, that we might be able to just sort of directly communicate what the impact of that might be. And you would at least consider that, even if it doesn't meet, maybe what we see right here on the RFP. Does that make sense, my question?
I think so. I think you're asking if in the updated frequently asked questions that we can include links to those assessments so that you can gain a better understanding of how your program would be evaluated if you were to receive funding, which we can definitely do.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much.
O'Day is waiting to ask a question.
Hi, yes. This is just to help us contextualize our funding amount requests. Somebody had mentioned earlier a range between, I think, 85 and 200,000. Could you clarify that? I just want to make sure I get the numbers right.
Yes, that's average the range, but we will be posting all the questions and answers in our website, and you'll see there specific, more specific. But yes, that's about the range.
Thank you.
We have another question, hands raised from Joe.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Joe Took at Refugee Assistance Alliance. I have a couple of questions. I just wanted to reiterate, we are also based in multiple counties. We're in Miami-Dade and Broward. I wanted to make sure that we could still apply for our Broward programs and our Broward clients for this funding.
So if you're providing services for like Broward residents, like you can apply for funding.
Great. And secondly, I wanted to check whether or not we could apply on 2 separate strategies. So I seem to have read somewhere, but I can't find it now, that you can make 2 applications for multiple programs, because we really would be struggling to decide between strategy 1 and strategy 3, both of which we're already doing.
Yeah, so that you could complete, you would have to complete 2 separate applications. Yes.
But we
If
could
you-
apply for a full budget for each program.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would be like, say, like for strategy 1, you had 1 program and you applied for that program, you filled out the whole application, did all of that for that program, and then you had another program that met strategy 2, or you felt that met strategy 2, then you apply for that strategy as well, but you'd have to complete everything.
Great. Okay, and just to double check, if there'd be no problems with the portal going in on JotForm and running two simultaneous applications, or would I have to do one first, submit it, and then restart in the portal, right?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. And thank you for answering all the questions so patiently.
No problem. Thank
Not
you.
for you to answer, I understand.
Alexis, we have questions in the Q&A. If I screw up your name, please accept my apology. Anik, our programs include Teen Workforce, who teaches adults digital literacy skills and help adults to find jobs. Are we able to apply for this program?
So like I had mentioned earlier, what I would recommend is that specifically to review the RFA and to review the specific strategy that you're looking at applying for, and seeing what the performance indicators are, seeing how that will be evaluated, and see whether or not your program aligns with that specific strategy.
There's another question in the Q&A from Peter. Is there a preference to applying for 2 programs versus 1 application with multiple programs?
I guess I'm confused about the 1 application with multiple programs. So because theoretically, like, you are applying for a program for funding. So theoretically, you like when we were speaking with Joe, like, you would apply for 1 program and you would go through that process, and then you would align it with whichever strategy you felt best aligned with your program. And then if there was another separate program that you also wanted to request funding for, you'd also apply for that program and then select whatever relevant strategy applied to that program, and then apply for that program as well.
I see that we have Michelle Fernandez hand up.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I have 2 questions. The first, I wanted to elevate my colleague Tim Dwyer's question in the chat. He asked if a rating tool would be available or some kind of scoring matrix.
So the rating tool should be online. However, we'll make sure that we will include that information in the updated FAQs when we upload it to the website.
Excellent. And then I know there's been some back and forth in the chat as it relates to either word count versus character count. It does look like the JOT form is set up to be word count for all of the application questions at the moment. So I did want to clarify if we should be using a word count or a character count for those sections.
Yeah, so for all the sections, it's based on the word count, not character counts. I apologize for any confusion.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay, and I think Peter might have his hand up. Oh, it's cutting in and out a little bit.
Thank you, everyone. I'll chat. I just want to say thank you for everything you guys are doing. My clarification was because we have at the David Posnick JCC, our Merleys Gibberim United, our Special Services Department, our Hireability, and I think we have multiple individual programs underneath each umbrella that they're all connected to, because each one helps with the next. So that's why I was asking, would it be better for us to do a focused application for a specific program underneath our multiple programs, or do one big ask to cover the different programs underneath where the benefits will be measurable?
I think I think I understand your question. And so I think that specifically, you can only select one strategy for whichever program that you're applying for. So now what I would recommend is that if there was specific programs that you feel really aligned with one of the strategies, then you would apply that for that program or strategy. Now, if there's another strategy that you also have a program that you think that aligns and that you want to apply for, that you could also do that as well. And then vice versa for the third strategy as well. Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? I'm trying to look through the chat, see if anybody else has their hands raised.
I think we are done with the questions.
Okay. And now the one thing I will say is, as I mentioned, some of your questions, as I alluded to, we will definitely make sure to post the updated FAQ with all of the responses to the questions on the website no later than January 21st at 5 p.m. Now, if nobody has any other questions, then we can conclude this workshop. And I just wanted to thank you all for taking your time to attend today. I really appreciate all your participation and all of your questions. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.